late '99, he took my group of engineers and told me that he would be the head of new company. I'll be CTO, at that time head of search engine development anyway. And we will start a separate company. I will call it with the name that I made in '93. I mean, we had the name Yandex for the search products and for the site. Yes. Well, it was both several interpretations. It was fun interpretations again. Yes, another index, Yazykowy index, which is Yazyk as language, so language index, and these kind of things. And in the March of 2000, we opened a separate company, incorporated. March or April, I don't remember, maybe February, somewhere in the middle, in the beginning of 2000. And we got, I think, $5 million from the investors. That they were the only sensible guys on the market because they didn't want more than half of the company. They wanted just be financial investors helping the company around, but not taking the company in their hands. Because other Russian investors were so crazy, they thought maybe the startups as if or something. They wanted to take the full possession of the startups. It sounds funny now, right? It sounds very funny, but in Russia it still exists. This presumption that you have to own it. So all the companies, we had two competitors, and they sold to investors completely, Rambler and Upwork. And in several years they are dead. Rambler now is almost zero in search engine market. But we were the only ones who decided to stay as independent as possible and taking as much money as possible in the same time. It's very hard to balance. So we managed to do that. We got $5 million and we started to spend them. And we wanted to spend them as efficient as possible. So we expanded up to 70, maybe 100 people. And we rented a new space. Actually, it was an old Soviet supercomputer center for supercomputer rule. Was just one room, but huge, really huge, with a huge blocks of supercomputer back in the 70s and 80s. So what we did, we removed all the garbage out of it, and there was actually a separate niche on the street in the ground for coolers, for refrigerators, because refrigerators were there to help the supercomputer operate. You see? Yeah. So actually we used that. It was our server farm number 2. In 2 years we removed all the garbage out of the basement. Huge basement. We removed all the coolers and put our second server farm. So the first server farm we had just very tiny room adjacent to the big room, and we put there maybe 200 servers, something like that, 300 servers. That was our big installment, big thing. And we lived on that about a year or something like that. All 2000, maybe 2001. And we understood that we need more audience, we need more services. And we started to develop vertical services. Because before that we just were the search. And we wanted to be more than the search. And we started with news and shops. And the model was not to create our own news site or not to create our own shopping site, but be aggregator and kind of aggregation and adding value on top of the aggregation, and being very fair. We didn't have any preferential system, we didn't have any preferential news or preferential shops. Everything was very transparent, clear. It was pay-per-click in shops, and it was free. It was model traffic for content in news. So we have everything signed, all the agreements, because that was kind of easier, not having fights with the content owners. We didn't do a grabbing of shops, and we didn't do grabbing of news without permission. So everything we did through arrangements, but being open and transparent, it helped, and we didn't want too much, right? So in a year or two, we became the biggest news aggregator and the biggest shops aggregator. Plus, we started some other development to help, and those things help search, because it's also part of the search, right? So another thing we wanted to create image search. In 2002, we made image search. With this very small group of people, it was about 12 search engineers, all 2001, 2002, maybe up to 2003, we had 12, 15 search engineers altogether. 25 engineers, 12 search engineers, and about 80, 100 people altogether. That was a stable company for 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. For about 4 years, we've been around 100 people with about 30 engineers. One thing that we made was very important. It was very early 2000, we understood the monetization must be through context advertisement, through the search advertisement. And we saw, I think there was overture in October, of 2000, when every big portal went dead because of that
crisis,
stock market crash, and it was Excite, AltaVista, Yahoo, Lycos, InfoSeek, at least 5 big things. And there was emerging new ones like was Google and Fast. They were purely search engines, but they were growing. And these all big ones.
Then we can try 1,000 of services. And usually still continue
sell with PVC.
PVC windows. PVC is a great business, but you are not advertised on Yandex.
Don't you know that? I mean, yeah. And actually, I mean, altogether, maybe it was firing of three directors of his own enthusiasm. But I believe it was October of 2002, when it was first month when we brought real money, like first 10,000 months of 2020 something. And then in 2003, I think, yeah, in 2003 we made. Maybe 2002 or 2003 we made an auction, and it started to grow, and I think late 2003 it was very clear that we are growing twice or three times a year. So I think we made $1 million a year in 2002, $3 million a year in 2003, $7.5 million in 2004, 15 in 2005, 30 in 2006, 100 something like that. It was growing exponentially, very cool. And we started. We had, and I think in 2003, late 2003 was when guys from Google came to Russia, and they didn't understand what's going on, because before that they made big things. They made internationalization of the search engine, and they expanded the quality of index. Because in the 90s, in the early 2000s, most of the world search engines, they didn't index foreign pages. They were concentrated on English only. For example, in Russia, none of the foreign search engines indexed more than 10% of the content that we index. So we were fighting with Rambler, basically. Rambler and Yandex were two big search engines in terms of number of pages, and all the others were just zero. So Google did that, I think, in 2002, when they internationalized the interface and made a really big index for Russia. And it helped them everywhere. It helped them all over Europe. They won Poland, they won Turkey, they won Germany, they won every single country in Europe in 1 year, 2 years, 2002, 2001. So everything was a scenario where you have a big search engine and Google, and then the bifurcation. In a year, it's Google and everything is zero. And it didn't happen in Russia at all, because Google gained 5% and stayed. But Rambler and Yandex were enjoying two big shares. Like we had maybe 55%, 50%, and Rambler had about 25, 30%.
Sorry, is it another linguistic?
Right. So they came to Russia to understand why. And the answer was, they had clearly the answer that the answer is you have to work with language. It's not enough. Because in 2001, 2002, 2003, they were searching very exact letters that you put into the search box, you get the answer, very exact. They didn't do any expansion, nothing at all. Even in their help pages, they wrote that we do not do that, we want to be very precise, the web search can bring you lots of information, so we concentrate on the search quality, we do not do any query expansion, we don't do any stemming. I have the citation of it because I made some scientific research work, and I put the citation as a context. I remember that early 2006. So they came to Russia, they came to Yandex also, they liked us very much. They got the idea that they need to have a language support and everything, and it wasn't easy to them to implement. They liked us very much and started to negotiate with us for Yandex to be part of Google. And those negotiations lasted about a year, I believe. So at some moment we were very close. But the real reason why we didn't want to be with them, they wanted to actually to kill a brand, and to our team to be really part of Google, be just lost, to be lost in Google, somewhere in the depths of Google. So we decided to stay independent. Also, we had some investors who pretty much were, how to say, they believed in us and thought that we could. Actually, when we refused, I remember that was, I think, summer 2004, when Google was going public. We negotiated how much shares of Google we can get and everything. And they grew after that 5 times. But we grew 50 times maybe 500 times, I mean, in valuation. So it was from the point of view of money, it was a very wise decision. But nevertheless, we didn't go with them, forget about it. And we understood that it's not enough for us to stay against Google because they have very good components of search. A component of search is a very huge thing. You have to invest thousands of many years to do it now. You have to create a crawler, indexing system, real time. It must be very fast. It must be very precise. Linguistics, blending, ranking, everything, learning, everything. Lots of components. Thousands of many years. You have to have hundreds of engineers working on this task. Hundreds. It's not that easy. We had that time. Let's say 25 engineers working on such. So we understood it's very challenging. We couldn't stay against this product if we do not reorganize ourselves. So I think in 2006 we started to reorganize. We moved to another office. We expanded many times, and we hired many guys. And in 2007 we made the first machine learning formula. It's a scalable way to get high search engine quality, high quality of the search engine. And only I think, and Google started to gain because they also invested into linguistics and morphology. In 2005 they made the full language support for Russian, and they rolled it out in 2006. And in 2006 and 2007 there were two very hard years for us. We were losing and Google was gaining. But in mid-2008 we coped with the problem and made lots of factors, lots of features, lots of kind of reorganized everything. We finished this very painful stage. And I think summer or May of 2008, that was the first month when we stopped falling at all. And since May of 2008, we are growing 30 years in a row. And Google not growing. And there was some significant changes, maybe late 2009 when we launched a very cool thing that we call MatrixNet, which is also machine learning, but very detailed, extremely detailed, with the formula that reflects all the data. And the formula is hundreds of megabytes of code. I mean, it's automatically generated, but nevertheless. And you cannot compute it on the old database. You can compute it only on the top of the documents. It's not. It's just. It's very hard to do this scale computation on the whole huge database. But nevertheless, it brings us very high search quality. And since then, we try to get lots of signals. We have thousands of different signals into the search, and lots of training examples, lots of different search query classes, freshness, diversity. All these problems to be on par with Google and Bing. Bing is also doing a very good job. They spend maybe 50 times more money than us. I believe their internet division is not profitable, so it's several billions a year, something like that, only on search. Unbelievable.
Is it true that there is 6,000 engineers
something
in
like that. On one side it's 4,000. Only one side. So, but we are like we are. You see, we have this great building. We moved here. It was a crisis when we negotiated this building at a very high price. But then it was crisis. Everyone was just running away from all the deals. But we decided that we stay. And our board, we had several hours fights with board. Board was trying to stop us from moving into this building because it was late 2008, you know, the crisis, and it wasn't clear. Hi.
Hello. This is Arat from Istanbul.
Ilya, Segalovich. At least we wanted to, it's sort of close to the end of the story. Trying to,
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah,
No problem. And the funny part of it that we couldn't decide if we couldn't calculate what is the percentage of the income this rent would be. So finally we decided that no, we were going to move because we will grow for sure. And we managed to persuade the board, and they gave us the right to move here, and we moved. And now I think we are looking at even more expansion. Because This will take 2 years, 3 years to finish, and when they finish it, it sort of looks that we don't fit. Maybe.
Yandex flexi.
So we are thinking about even bigger place. So what
In
else?
comparison with the time when the Yandex server were beneath the table, and
Yeah. I was just next to my. I felt every query, every search request. You know. No, another person searching. You physically feel how many searches a day it performs. What else? I mean, the culture and atmosphere, we definitely try to keep an open and sincere and very transparent atmosphere in the office and in the relationships, and trying to be, how to say, very transparent and very straight in the outward. So all this relationship with the webmasters, because you have to be very clear on what you think is bad and what you think is good, and you have to be in terms of search quality, and you have to be, as I said before, with those vertical services. Other things that we tried to make, but probably not as successful, was social network. We bought social network 4 years ago. It's called One Group. It's sort of LinkedIn in Russian. It's a professional social network, but it's not giving us satisfaction. It's not big and it's not growing faster than we wanted. From the same period of time, from those 4 or 5 years ago, there were more successful networks that grew, such as VK and Одноклассники. They're huge in Russia. So it doesn't look like that it's our piece of bread. No, it's not. It's not our problem. But who knows? We try not to. We think that the search still has great room to grow, great potential, because it's a very essential part of everyday internet life. You have to find lots of information, and this is what we want to develop. And our current idea, is to try to be present on the markets that we believe we can be helpful. The problem with Google is a great company, that's a great search, but the problem with Google is the only one. In many countries it's the only one. And being the only one is not good. If you are the only one, you are not as good as you probably can be if there is competition. It's not that sometimes you are not paying attention to the local source of information or the local language or the local
culture.
Some culture or some special nuances. This is one story. Another story, you may not just do things that you are late in enrolling some features. In Russia, for example, they're very concentrated. They implement everything first in Russia because they think it's very important for them. But many other countries are really 2 years later, 3 years later. This is one of the ideas. So being just faster and do something that Google didn't do yet, doesn't do. And also there is an alternative. It must be alternative. People want to have some alternative. They search on Google, well, they didn't find a result. Maybe they can try Bing, right? In US they do that. They try Bing after Google, and it's important. You have this. It's not big. It's maybe 20% of the market, but it's good to have alternative. So my understanding, our understanding, current understanding is to try in a modest way to try to start to be just a good alternative, very good alternative with some interesting, very cool features that is important for the market, maybe more important than the bigger features. And be very helpful and bring more service and be very useful, be very open and good. I mean, all these words, but I don't know what to say.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.